Hi guys, quick small introduction. My name is Srujan Deshpande, and with me today is Manikya. We are Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors, and today we'll be taking a small session for you guys on the introduction to Git and GitHub. So this is going to be a very informal. If you have any doubts at any time, you can unmute and talk. You can drop it in the chat box because and we want you guys to get really familiar with Git and GitHub in this session. So just feel free to fire away any questions that you have. Right. So the agenda of what we'll be talking in this session will be what are version control systems and what are the types, why Git, why are we actually using Git, what are the basics of Git, an overview of GitHub, and how we can use GitHub to collaborate and contribute. Just a minute.
And at the end of this, we'll be having like a quick hands-on session. We'll be showing you guys everything by actually working. Yeah.
Yes. So we'll show you guys how to create your first pull request, what are the steps you need to take, how to clone, how to fork, all the commands. We have you completely covered during this session. Now, the first thing that we'd like you to do is, since we'll have a hands-on session, we'll have a hands-on at the end, we want you guys to have Git installed first. So if anyone is running Windows, make sure you go to this link and download Git. So Git does not come pre-installed on Windows machines. So you're going to have to go and download that. So you can just head to git-scm.com/downloads and download it. For Mac users, Git will be pre-installed. You might have to do some Xcode developer tools, but those will come automatically. And for Linux users, Manikya?
Yeah, so I think this link already has some resources for all different kinds of OS. So if you go over, you should find what you're looking for.
Awesome. And if you aren't sure whether you have Git installed or not, you can always check by just typing git ---- version. It'll let you know whether you have Git installed or what steps you can take to install it. So yeah, just make sure you have Git installed right now. And if you have any doubts about installing Git or anything goes wrong in the middle, drop a message. You can drop a message onto the Meet chat, or you can put a message on the Discord doubts channel, and we'll be happy to help.
Yes, we have a dedicated channel, I think, for GitHub as well on our Discord. So yeah.
Yes, so you'll definitely get that if you need.
Okay.
Right.
So while you guys are doing that, we'll be going over the theory. But yeah, keep installing Git if you don't already have it.
Yes. So a little bit of theory is what is the Git, this word that you've been hearing all morning and all throughout the event, Git this, Git that, GitHub this, GitHub that. What is Git? So basically, Git is a version control software. So what exactly is a version control software? It's a system that records the changes to a file over time. So it's sort of like a change log. So when I have a file, I can make some changes to it and it gets stored as a new step. Then if I don't like the changes that I made, I can go to the previous step. Then something amazing about version control systems is that, say, Manikya and I are both working on the same project. Now, in a normal system, we might be editing the same file at the same time, or it might so happen that I delete a file which Manikya was using, or Manikya deletes a file which I was using, or we make some changes which neither of us wanted to make. There are lots of complications. But when you use a version control system like Git, it allows us to really easily make changes, keep a track of what changes were made, and also collaborate while making those changes. So we'll go a little more into how exactly you can do those with the example of Git. So why are we using Git? Because it's an ease in collaboration. As I mentioned, if there are multiple people working together, using Git makes it really, really handy. As one person can modify something, one person can modify another thing, two people can modify the same thing. And at the end, you will know exactly who has done what, and you will have the ability to keep a proper track of whatever was going on with your code. You won't lose any code. And it's overall a lot better for the development environment. See, no more losing track of old code. So say you had a working code and you change something, it's not working anymore. Using Git, you can easily jump right back. That's why we love using Git. So how does Git work? So there are a few very basic Git commands that you need to know. And if you see over here, there are 3 commands listed right here. Git add, 1 second. There are three commands: git add, git commit, and git push. So these are three main steps that you have when using Git. And we'll go a little bit into what these steps actually do. So over here on the left side, you have something called untracked or unstaged files. So what this means is that you have some files and you've changed them. That's all. You haven't done anything after changing them. Those are called untracked files. What we do to those untracked files is we git add them. By doing a git add, we tell Git that, hey Git, we modified these files. Can you keep track of them? And so Git says, okay, I'll do that. And that goes into staged. Now, staged files are those which Git knows about. So once you modified a file and you tell Git add it and it's staged, now Git knows about that file and keep track of it. Next, you want to make sure that file that you have added, they are added to your local repository. So where your local code is, it's added to that. Sorry, Manikya, can you help me out here?
Yeah. So you have a local repository, right? So GitHub actually maintains the remote repository here. GitHub is the remote repository in our case, and after we clone our repo, we clone it on our local system, and that's a local repository. So when you commit it, it gets saved or committed on your local repository.
Yes. So you have a copy of all the code with you. By the local repository, we mean all the code on your local system. So all the files get added to that, added to Git on your local system. And finally, when we push, it goes from your local system to the remote repository. So in this case, yes, the local system will be your laptop or computer, whatever you're using at home. And remote repository, in this case, what we're using is GitHub. We'll go into a demonstration and examples. It's much easier to learn like that.
Right. If it looks very confusing, don't worry about it. I think we'll be having like a hands-on will make things very clear. I think if you still have doubts, feel free to put them in chat or on the Discord, wherever.
Yeah, definitely. So let's look at the Holy Trinity. So in your all the time of using Git, you will most likely need very few commands, which most people use. There are very few commands to remember. And these three are the most important commands that you will need to know. So as we mentioned earlier, git add adds your code, git commit commits it to the local file system, and git push pushes it to the remote file system, in this case GitHub. So whenever you want to save any code or whenever you want to send any code that you've done to the remote, you just do these three steps. 1, 2, 3. We'll have a demonstration on that.
Git add, what git add will do?
So Git, once you change a file, Git doesn't know which files you've changed. So you tell git add, and you see this dot here. This dot basically means all files.
Okay.
So it tells that
it's like saving.
Any file that I've changed, you can keep track of it. Yeah. But instead of dot, if you change a particular file, then you can add like git add that file name, and you can tell Git to keep track of that. That's what it does.
So in case if you have any file in that particular directory or folder which you don't want to be added to your repository or get saved, so you wouldn't do git add, like you won't add it to your local repo. You won't do git add for that particular file.
Yes. All right. Now here are a couple more commands. So those three commands that we dealt with earlier, right here, git add, git commit, and git push. So what those three deal with are when you write the code and you want to send it out. Now there's a possibility that someone else has written some code and you want to get that code. In that case, you'll use the command git pull. So let's say Manikya has worked on some code and I want to get that code from him. I want to see what code he's worked on. So I'll use the command git pull. And as the word suggests, it pulls it. So from the remote repository on GitHub, which is stored in the cloud, that code comes into my local file system. Right. Then another interesting command we've got here is called git fork. So in this webinar, we won't be going too much into the command line version of this. We'll use the GUI on GitHub. But what fork keyword basically means is that if someone is working on some code and you want to help out on that code, you need to make a copy of that code on your side. So that way you can add and remove code from your copy of it. And then finally, when you're done working on it, you can push the final version to the actual code base where you got it from.
Right. So,
We'll,
so in our
yeah,
case, we have a bunch of repos you might have noticed on the ACM organization. So if you want to contribute to any of those, what you'll have to do is you'll have to fork it to your own personal accounts. Then after that, you'll be making some changes, uh, and then pushing it back, and then making a PR and all that. So we'll be going into more details, but yeah, this is what you'll have to do. So you'll have to fork it first. This is essential if you
yes,
want to contribute to that particular project.
yes. And the last major command that we'll look into here is git status. Git status is very helpful because it will simply tell you what files you have not like using the git add will add files. Right? It will tell you what files are added, what files are not added. It will tell you if you have any commits that you have not pushed, and it will tell you if you have any commits that you have not pulled from the remote. Now a bit on GitHub. So GitHub is a popular platform for version control. And I think this statement sums it up very nicely. If Git is the ingredient, GitHub is the final product. So you can't use GitHub without Git, but you can use Git without GitHub. So all GitHub does is it makes it very easy to use Git to collaborate with lots of people and make your code public. It's a cloud platform where you put your code out there. And yes, it's the world's largest hub of open source software. So a couple of features, it enables you to contribute to open source software. So contribute to open source software is what you guys will be doing right now. So we have a lot of repositories, we have a lot of projects whose links we send out, right? All of these are open source software. So by submitting a pull request to them, you will be contributing. Then submitting code or documentation is again contributing. And it has some bonus features like sponsors and workspaces. We won't be going too much into this, but it does help out for big companies and the like.
Oh, Srujan, it looks like we have a question
Yeah.
here from Srinivasa Raghavan. So he's
Yes,
asking,
sure.
can we clone a fork repo?
Yes, you can. So what clone means is the command git clone basically means you are getting the repository from the remote, which is in the cloud, to your local system. But fork can mean going from someone's cloud repository to your own cloud repository.
Right. So
That's what it
essentially,
means.
in this Hacktoberfest as well, what you'll basically be doing is forking the repo to your personal account and then cloning that particular fork repo only. And then you'll be making some changes on your local system and then pushing back those changes to your personal account's fork repo. And after that, you'll be making a pull request. We'll be going over this soon, so don't worry about it.
Yes. All right. I think that's enough of theory. That's been saying a lot about. Let's go into it. Let's actually go into it.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah. So just a quick check. Does everyone have Git installed? If anyone doesn't, then we can help you out.
If you guys have any issues, yeah, feel free
Yeah.
to speak.
While installing Git, it'll ask some like use the OpenSSL library or use the native Windows self-installing library. Which one to use?
On Windows,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not too sure about this. It's been a while since I've run it on Windows, but I think either one of them will work.
Okay.
The only thing that will change is how it will be authenticated, I guess. So, all right.
And to answer, we have another question
Yeah.
over here.
Okay.
So, what is the advantage of cloning a file onto our local system? Why can't we work with the GUI itself? All right. So the thing is, GUI doesn't have like a good editor and stuff. So I don't think you would want to, mess around with that. It's very easy to work on your local systems, right? You can have VS Code or something like that. And
Yes.
yeah,
And another thing is on your local system, you'll be able to run the code.
right.
So
Yeah, that's the
you can
main
actually run
part
the code
actually.
and add features and test it out. Yes.
Yeah,
And you won't be able to do that on the GUI.
you can just make some simple text edits. That's all really.
Yes.
We won't get too much into GitHub Actions and all that right now, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So for people on Windows, you will have to open something called Git Bash. So after installing Git for Windows, you'll get multiple different programs installed actually, but we'll use something called Git Bash since Windows is the most common operating system, unfortunately. Yeah. So you won't be able to use your nominal terminal directly with this. So your command prompt will not work. You have to use a command called you have to use a program called Git Bash, which you can install using the link we showed earlier. And on Windows, on Mac and Linux, you will be able to use your normal terminal with the Git command. Yes. So now what we'll do is we have a testing repo over here. So this is just a little junk repository of ours where we test out all different kinds of things. And you can use this to create your first pull request and see how it works. So I'll drop the link into the Google Meet chat, and you can follow along with how we're doing this. Yes, do I select the default editor as Vim, or does Notepad work equally well? Manikya?
I mean, Vim can be a bit intimidating at first, but it can make you very efficient if you know your keybinds and stuff. But to get started, I think Notepad would work, but it's just that I think it would just work if you want to code effectively and very efficiently. I think you should go with a good code editor like VS Code, or some would say Atom as well. Yeah.
Yes. And yes, sir has mentioned right here you can use a Git command on command prompt as well. You just have to add it to the path variable, but that's out of the scope of this meeting, so we're not going to go into too much depth on that. You can be sure that Git Bash will work. So now that you've got your Git installed and everything, we hope no one had any issues with that. You go to the repo that you want to contribute to. In this case, I have this testing repo.
Srujan, just a second. So to answer Ryuk's question, yeah, so VS Code would be, I think, very good for a beginner. You can just download VS Code and use that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Instead of Notepad.
Yes. Okay, so once we've got the test repo here, so this is on the ACM PESU ECC organization. It's not from my personal account. So if I want to contribute to this, or if any of you want to contribute to this, the first thing that you do is click on the fork button. So in the top right over here, we have something called the fork button, and this basically creates a copy of that repository in the cloud. So let me click on fork, choose my account, and fork is being created of this repository. So now that I have the fork of the repository, I can do any changes that I want to do in this code. But how do I know what changes I want to do? So if we go back to the original repository over here, you can see something called the issues tab. If you click on the issues, you can see there is a whole bunch of issues. So usually what maintainers do is, if there are any problems with their code, like there are small bugs or there are small enhancements that they want people to work on, most of the time an issue is created for that. So you can see here on actual projects, you will have actual issues with saying, okay, we need this bug fixed, or we need this to happen, or we need that to happen. You can check out any of the repositories we've mentioned for this event. All 30 of them have a whole bunch of issues that you can work on. So over here, since this,
yeah, another thing I just wanted to add over here is not just the maintainers, right? Anyone on the internet, even you guys, can open an issue anywhere if you feel like something could be improved, if you have any doubts about thing, if you want any enhancements to be made, it could be used for anything really. So for this Hacktober as well, you don't have to constrain yourself to the issues we have open. Feel free to open your issues if you feel like anything can be improved, and I think we'll give you bounty points for those as well.
Yes, exactly. It's because opening issues is an integral part of integral part of contributing, because you're letting the maintainer know that, hey, this thing might be a problem in your code. So that's helping as well. But yeah.
Right.
So whatever it is, let's look into this. So here you can see there's an issue that's been created, and in this case, the issue will usually contain some information on what the problem is, and maybe the steps to take on solving it. So most maintainers like to follow a particular pattern in their code or something like that. They'll have a couple of steps. So you should always check the issues first. So over here we don't have anything, but maybe the maintainer might write that try following this approach, or the error might be in this particular file, something like that. So you should always look at the issue. Another thing is the code will also have something called contributing guidelines. There'll be contributing guidelines in the README. So those will contain information on what the program does, how to run it, and how the actual repository works as a community. We'll go more into that today evening at 7 o'clock. We have a talk by Akash from a maintainer's perspective, which should be really interesting. But yeah. So for the scope of this event, what we want you to do is when you see an issue that you like, you want to work on this issue, drop a comment saying, hey, I would like to work on this. So dropping a comment on the issue helps the maintainers know that, oh, okay, we've got a person who's interested in working on the issue. And it also helps other people in knowing that, okay, someone's working on it, I don't have to work on this, I can look for someone else, some other issue.
Srujan, why don't you refresh the page?
Yes. All right. So now Manikya is the maintainer and he's put a message saying, sure, he's assigning it to me. So when the issue is assigned to me, it kind of makes it clear to the world that, oh, okay, this person is going to work on this issue for now. And you have a clear path to follow. And if you ever have any doubt on what to do regarding the issue, you can always message the maintainer right there, and then they'll be happy to help you out. Yeah. So now I have a fork of the repository, right? Now, the first thing that we want to do is clone the repository. So on GitHub, you can see this nice little big green button called clone. So what we're going to use is, we're going to use HTTPS over here. You can also use SSH or GitHub CLI or even GitHub Desktop. They're all different options. Some might be easier than the other. You can look into those if you have the time and you're interested.
Right, so GitHub Desktop, which you guys see over here, is like a nice GUI application. It makes stuff very easy. So if you're more comfortable with GUI, then yeah, feel free to download GitHub Desktop. It's very self-explanatory and yeah, very easy to get into.
Yes. So anyway, I'm going to use the command line, and here we can see the GitHub has given us the URL. Just going to click on that, and it's going to copy it. I'm going to open my terminal with Git and just type the command git clone and the repository. Just a minute.
Yes, it's visible, Srujan.
Yeah, 1 sec. It's visible, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that was interesting. I'm not sure. 1 sec. Okay, yeah. So I basically typed git clone and the repository URL, and it's making a copy of that on my local file system. So now the folder name was test repo 1. So I can go to test repo 1.
What the cd command does is basically change the directory.
Yes. Yeah. Cd command is universal across Mac, Windows, and Linux, so you can use that very easily. Right. And now once you change your directory into your GitHub repo that you've cloned, git bash will show you a nice little thing on the side, which is the branch that we're. Now branches are another part of Git. We'll go into that if we have time. But right now you can see that it shows around the master branch. And if you do ls lists the files, we can see that these are the files that are there. Now, in this case, the change that I want to make is just like add my name to the README file. So let me do that. So you can open this in any of your favorite editors. Let's see.
Oh, how you created the test repo one directory?
So using the git clone command,
Okay.
you see this URL over here.
Yeah.
So you just have to type git clone and you paste that URL.
Okay, because it was pasted in my master directory directly, so I want to change that.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, I have just directly run the command git clone and that pasted that URL.
Okay.
So now I can't change the directory to test repo one because I haven't created the test repo directory, and then I didn't clone that.
So do you type git clone, right? Okay, if you type git clone, then the folder will be created. So did you fork this repository?
Yeah, I forgot it.
Okay, then it might be called as test repo directly. I mean, not test repo, and just test repo. Check it out if that's there.
Okay.
Yeah, so this folder or directory or the repository will be created exactly at that place where you ran git clone. So if Srujan ran git clone in some other folder, this new repository would get created inside of that other folder.
Yes. All right. Just a minute.
Yeah, got it. Continue.
All right. Cool. So now you can open this. You can open this code files using any editor that you like. You can use VS Code. You can use Notepad++. If you want, you can use Sublime Text. Those are some of the popular editors. So you can just open it using any one of them. I prefer Atom, so I'm going to use that. And you don't have to open this from the command line itself. You can even use File Explorer. So your normal, you can search for where you cloned it, and you can open it using that as well. Okay. So while that's opening.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm confused. I haven't used MinGW in a while. Where does MinGW store its files? All right. Anyways, okay. So the editor's opened up. It's opening up. It's a bit slow.
Okay, so it seems it's storing the program files folder. Thanks for the information.
Okay.
Zephyr, yeah.
Thanks for that. Yeah. All right. So over here, I've opened the entire folder in my text editor. So if you use something like VS Code or Sublime Text, you should see a similar thing. You can open the entire folder and view all the files. So now what I want to do is I just want to edit the README. I'm going to open the README file, and I want to add my name to the list. That's a very simple addition. So let me just type Srujan. That's my name. I'm going to add it to the list, and I'm going to save it. So now once I've saved the file, there are 3 steps that we have to follow, as we mentioned: git add, git commit, and git push. So we can do that over here using the command line. So we can type git add. Now, if you put dot, it means for all the files that I've changed. But in this case, I've only changed one file. So you can either use git add dot, or you can specify the name of the file that you've changed. In this case, I've changed readme.md.
Before
right?
we enter, why don't we show them what git status does?
Oh yes, we can do that. Yes. So if you type git status, all right. So git status tells us that you have a file that is modified readme.md, and those files have not been committed yet. These changes are not staged for commit. Right.
So yeah, it's a very helpful way to see what's actually happening in your repo. If you're confused at any point as to what is happening, you can just type git status and it should tell you what to do and what's happening really. So it even tells us like git add file to update what will be committed, and it's very helpful really.
Yeah, it tells us the command. You can git add or git commit, all those stuff. So let's use git add. First we do git add, and you can see the files have been added. Now, now if we do git status, it tells us that a file has been modified, and these files are to be committed. So they're not, in this case, they were nice and red, but here it's nice and green. So Git is a little bit happier. So the next thing is we want to commit these changes to a local Git repository. So the copy of the code that we have locally. So we're going to do git commit -m. So what -m stands for is a message. So it's usually recommended that when you commit the code, you add a small message. So what changes have you done during that commit? So we have to type git commit -m, added Srujan name. So this message has to be within double quotes, or if you want a longer message, you can not put the quotes and it'll open the editor. But if you want a small message, you can just do this git commit -m, which is the message, and in double quotes the commit message. And once we do that, we can see that one file has been changed, and it'll just tell us how many insertions and deletions and all that kind of stuff. So now on our local files, on our local Git repository, this change has been saved. So if I type git status here, we can see that our branch is ahead of origin master by one commit. This basically means that currently what we have on the local system is ahead of the cloud GitHub system by one commit, because that makes sense, because we've done one commit over here, which we haven't sent it over there to the cloud yet. If you want to send it to the cloud, do git push, and this will go and update into GitHub. So now we type git push. Git push might ask you for your username and password sometime. Yes, once you enter those, it will go into GitHub. So now once I can refresh it over here, and you can see my name has appeared. Adding name here soon. So that's how we do add, commit, and push.
Okay, so this change which we did is in Srujan's forked repository, which he forked like a while ago. So, but how do we get this to our main repo, which was on the ACM organization?
Yes. So what we do, so when I want to get this change from my local, from my forked repository to the actual main repository, what we do is create a pull request. So over here you can see it tells us that the branch is one tab ahead, or you can just head to the pull request tab and click on new pull request. And over here, Git will very helpfully tell you that what branches are there and what forks are there. So over here, we can see ACM PESU ECC/test repo is the original repository that was there, that we forked it from. And we want to send our code to this repository, to the branch master. And you can see the arrow mark is really, really nice and helpful over here. It tells us that code is going from Srujan Deshpande to ACM PESU ECC. Next, what we can do is we can choose the branch over here, which branch, since we worked on master, just master. And you can see what changes have happened right here. So you can see very nicely my name is highlighted, Srujan, and that has been added to the file. Right after that, you click create pull request. So what a pull request does is it goes and notifies the maintainer of the original repository saying, hey, someone wants to send this code to you. And when you're doing that, it's always nice to be very, very descriptive about what you've done. So because the maintainer does not know exactly what you've done, right? And it's very hard to go read the code and find out everything. So when you're writing this message over here, the pull request message, make sure to specify exactly what you've done and why you've done it. So, hello, I've added my name to the file. So that's what I've done. All right. And now we can click on create pull request. Yes. And there ends our work. So now,
can you show me like how to add the pull request from bash?
From bash?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, you want to create a pull request from the command line?
Yeah, actually, I know like how to do through GUI. So
Okay.
like, see.
Through command line, I don't remember the commands exactly. Manikya, we have to set the remote origin, right?
Yeah, I think we'll have to do all that.
It's
Yeah.
okay, fine.
We'll get back to you after this.
Okay.
Yes.
Just ping us on Get Help channel.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, now the
Yeah,
pull
the
request is
the the
sent
Get
to
CLI would
repository.
work, I think. Yeah, the GH2.
Yeah. All right. So now, Manikya, what does my maintainer do?
All right, so the maintainer at this point would see the open PR, and maybe he can put a comment saying, "Oh no, I don't like this part. Maybe can you change it or something?" Um,
Yes.
and if he likes it, maybe he can say that, "Okay, looks good." And yeah, like if whatever he wants, he can just comment over there. And for the purpose of this Hacktoberfest, I'll also show you guys this bounty thing which we were talking about before. So if you make a contribution and the maintainer is happy with it, so depending on the issue itself, there is a bounty allocated to it. So for this, maybe I can give Srujan 10 bounty points for doing this.
Thank you, Manikya.
So yeah, so we have a bot actually. The repo is also on our organization, somewhere on the organization. So what it basically does is it gives some bounty points and it's get added to some leaderboard. To a leaderboards, but that's something else. We can talk about it in that particular channel. But for now,
Yes.
yeah. So this is it. This is the main workflow, which I think you guys will be going through in the next 2 days.
And once you submitted the pull request, your work is over unless the maintainer says that, hey, I would like you to change this, or I would like you to change that. In case there are any changes that to be made, you can just continue adding the code to your same fork and same branch, and the code will keep getting added to the same pull request. Most of the time, and if it gets closed or if it gets merged, then you're good to go and you just made a successful contribution.
Right.
Yes.
Another thing I would mention over here, it's not related to this really, but I wanted to say this before I forget that if in case you haven't already registered yourself on the main Hacktoberfest website, please go over and do that before you make any pull requests. So to ensure that your contributions are counted. So you need so Srujan will show you how
Yes.
to do that.
Yeah, so make sure you head to hacktoberfest or digitalocean.com. And yeah, this registering over here is only necessary for the purpose of the Hacktoberfest event.
Right.
Yeah, there'll be a login button over here.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty
And
self-explanatory. It'll redirect you to GitHub, it'll ask you to connect your
yeah,
account, and yeah, all those things will be shown up automatically.
yes.
Anyways, yeah, so just go over and do that in case you haven't already. So it looks like Srujan
Yeah.
has completed Hacktoberfest by making the 4 PRs.
Yes.
What if we have already made some pull requests before logging into this Hacktoberfest thing?
I think it would still work, right, Srujan?
Yeah, it should be fine
Yeah, I think it's
because
yeah.
yeah,
As long
the
as
rules specify October.
right, as long as the contribution was made in October, I think it's eligible.
Just go ahead and register. Yeah, you can see it'll show you a tick mark if your pull request is accepted. So basically, the main condition is that your pull request should not be marked as spam. So that means when you're contributing, you just make sure that you're actually doing something good for the repository and not making the maintainers time hard. That's all.
Right. So do we have any other doubts?
To which repositories we can able to contribute? Like we can update the code like that.
So you can contribute to like absolutely any repository you see on GitHub, but for it to be counted towards our bounty system for this particular event, we have like a few selected repositories where the maintainers would be active at this time, and we can judge stuff. So this is the list of all the repos which are eligible for getting the bounties. But yeah, feel free to contribute. Open source contribution is always great.
Yes. So all these projects, they are made on behalf of ACM PESU ECC. And if you have any doubts with any of them, if you have any doubts on how do I do this or any Git doubts, anything, they even have the specific channels on GitHub on Discord, so you can ask the doubts over there as well, and the maintainers will help you out.
Right.
How to see the whether our pull requests are being reflected on the actual Hacktober page, the one in which we've made the pull requests.
Okay.
Um, you can go to hacktoberfest.digitalocean.com, and there on your profile it will show you all the pull requests that you've made. So after
Yeah.
a 14-day review period, those will be accepted. Was that the question?
Yeah.
You can just go to this.
Yeah. Once you connect your account, you don't really have to do anything. It's just automatic, really. It
Yeah.
reads the information from your account.
So if you guys want to, try out how to do pull requests or something, you can go to the test repo and submit pull requests. So yeah, we can see a couple of them right here. So yeah, this repo is made just so that people can try out Git and GitHub. So feel free to send pull requests here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, just another thing, the bounties on this won't really be added, and this repo doesn't have the Hacktoberfest topic, so it won't be counted towards your actual 4 PRs. This is just like a test one, really.
Yeah. So it goes against the spirit of Hacktoberfest to have small contributions like this. So I mean,
Like
contributions
dummy
like
ones.
adding your name to a list aren't contributions that help the community. So this won't be counted towards your 4 PRs on DigitalOcean. So make sure you do PRs on other repositories for that.
Right.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll be online. Like someone will contact you if you ask anything on the Discord channel meant for GitHub help.
Yes. We have a help desk channel as well. You can shoot your doubts across anywhere, and someone will definitely get back to you. Yes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, sure, Saifur. We can talk about this. Yeah, thank you for those helpful tips throughout
Yes,
the
thank you so
event.
much.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if anyone has any doubts, feel free to tell us now, or if you want later, anytime really.
Yes. If you want some helpful resources on learning Git, we've got some nice links. Even a simple Google search will give you tons and tons of videos and articles on how to use Git. This is one that we found particularly interesting. It's very nice and simple, so you can check this out as well.
Where the local files will be stored, like local repositories.
So you,
Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead, Srujan.
So if you go to your where your when you cloned it, right, you will see that there's a folder called .git folder. If I open it over here, you can see that there's a folder
Yeah.
over here called the .git folder.
Hmm.
That .git folder is what internally keeps track of all your files and what changes you made and all that.
Okay.
That's your local Git repository.
And if you're asking about where exactly it's getting cloned and downloaded like wherever you ran that particular command. And I think you can even give exactly the location as a additional parameter. But yeah, it's just easy to cd to that particular directory and just clone it.
Yep.
if you want, we can show how to pull stuff. Okay, never mind.
How to pull stuff?
As in, like, I saw another PR, so I was thinking maybe I can just merge it.
Oh, okay, yeah, we can do that. So you want to merge the PR and then pull?
I think it's fine, anyways. If
Yeah.
in case anyone has any doubts, like, yeah, we can talk about this if you want. Yes, for the purposes of Hacktoberfest and for getting that T-shirt, any repository which has the Hacktoberfest topic or any issue which has that label, Hacktoberfest label, would be eligible. Like, yeah, so Pallavi, you can submit PRs for those, but for our bounty event which you are having, only the repos which are on our organization will be counted. So for Hacktoberfest
Could you just show
T-shirts,
us the ones that count? I mean, the ones which have the particular label.
okay, so for Bounty, this particular repository, which is Hacktoberfest 2020 on the ACM PESU ECC organization, has the list of all the repos which will be counted for Bounty. But if you are asking for Hacktoberfest, if you scroll up, Srujan, and we search for Hacktoberfest there, if you search for Hacktoberfest, I think all the repositories which have the Hacktoberfest topic in all GitHub, if you search for it in all GitHub,
I think Cypher has mentioned the command over here exactly. Yeah, label Hacktoberfest state open or issue. It's in the Meet chat. So if you do this, you can search for issues which have the label Hacktoberfest.
right? And if you want to see like all the repositories which are eligible for this, you can search for Hacktoberfest directly on all GitHub and not in this repository.
Yeah.
So, Srujan, maybe search all of GitHub.
Am I not searching all of GitHub?
Yeah.
Oh, my apologies. Yes, all of GitHub.
Yeah. So there should be like a topic if we can see.
Yeah, you can see issues with the label Hacktoberfest. Yeah, you
Okay.
can see the
Yeah.
topic.
If we remove that label part in the search parameter, we should be able to see like the main.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has around 57,000. So if you, yeah, click on the first one, Srujan.
Yeah, 54,000 repositories.
Right. So if we click on see topics at the top in Hacktoberfest, so yeah, it has list of all these repositories. You can select whichever language you want to work on at the top. You can filter by language or like, yeah, and see if whatever you're interested in. All these will be counted for the Hacktoberfest event. So yeah, these are pretty big repositories, and so it can take some time for the maintainer to see your code and accept it, but you can see whatever you want.
Yeah.
If you merge the pull request, like I sent a one pull request for adding a name.
All right.
If you merge that also, will that be counted in Hacktoberfest?
Not for this particular repository because we haven't added the Hacktoberfest topic on this because as Srujan mentioned, it goes against the spirit of Hacktoberfest as we're not making useful PRs. But for all the other repositories which have a Hacktoberfest topic, yes, that will be counted.
Yeah. So if you just go to the repository on the front, you can see that you'll see the topic Hacktoberfest here, and if you submit it to any repository which has it, it will be eligible for the 4 PRs. Any more questions?
Yeah. Yeah, as Cypher mentioned, if the maintainer sees your PR and he marks it as spam or invalid, it will not be counted.
Yeah.
So it
So
has
that's why I
to,
try to make.
yeah, so it has to be like after you make the pull request, the maintainer will have to add the Hacktoberfest accepted label, or he has to approve the pull request, or he has to merge the pull request. Those are the three cases I think your PR would be counted.
Yeah. Um, any more questions, or is that all?
And as I mentioned before, in case you like find some bugs or something you can improve in the repositories, that list we showed you on the ACM organization, if you want to, if you want to add something, or feel free to create an issue. And I think if you submit a PR for that, uh, we can give you some bounty points as well.
Yep. Alright, I think that's it. It was a great session. Hope you all learned something. Do drop any message on the GitHub channels if you have any problems, any issues whatsoever. We'll be available all through this weekend, 24/7. So don't worry
Yes,
about that. Yes.
someone will be there to help you guys out. Put any doubts you have in the Git channels. Yeah. All right, so let's end the webinar if you don't have any other doubts. Thank you guys for joining.
Thank you all.